A brand new Social Security bill just landed in the Senate, and every headline is screaming that it's going to save your check. So let me tell you the part they're leaving out. This bill will not add one single dollar to your Social Security. Not one. It doesn't raise your benefit, it doesn't cut it, it doesn't change who qualifies. And yet, it might be the most important thing to happen to Social Security in years. Sounds like a contradiction, right? Stay with me, because once you understand what this bill actually does, you'll see the real deadline hiding behind it, and it's a lot closer than you think. I'm going to break down three things: what this bill really does, the 2032 deadline that's forcing it, and why the one group you'd expect to cheer it on, the group that exists to protect seniors, is fighting it instead. That last one surprised me, and it'll probably surprise you too. So here's what dropped. On July 14th, 2026, a bipartisan group of 8 senators introduced something called the Promise Act. That's Republicans and Democrats together, which almost never happens on Social Security. The name stands for Protecting Retirement Opportunities and Maintaining Income Security for Everyone. Long name, simple idea. And the idea is not what most people think, because when you hear Social Security bill, you picture a change to your check, a raise, a cut, a new tax, a new age. This bill is none of that. The Promise Act doesn't touch your benefit at all. What it does is create a process, a procedure. It's a bill about forcing Congress to finally act, instead of a bill that acts itself. And I know a bill about a process sounds like the most boring thing in Washington, but hang on, because the reason they need to force themselves to act is the scary part. Let me explain what the process actually is, because it's clever. The Promise Act would order the Social Security Advisory Board to write what's called a base bill, a plan that guarantees Social Security stays solvent for at least 50 years, half a century. Then, and this is the key, it forces Congress to debate, amend, and vote on that plan within about 100 hours. No hiding, no letting it die quietly in a committee, no filibuster running out the clock, a guaranteed, on-the-record vote. And then, every 10 years, it happens again, so no future Congress can just kick the can down the road for another generation. Now, why would 8 senators suddenly decide they need to handcuff themselves into voting? Why now? That brings us to the number that changes everything. And this is the part I really need you to hear. 2032. Every year, the people who run Social Security release a report on the health of the program. It's called the Trustees Report, and the 2026 one came out and moved the most important date forward. The main retirement trust fund, the money Social Security has been leaning on to pay full benefits, is now projected to run dry in the fourth quarter of 2032. And here's the thing, that's 1 year sooner than they said just last year. The deadline is getting closer, not further away. So let me be crystal clear about what run dry means, because the word bankrupt gets thrown around and it's wrong. Social Security does not disappear in 2032. Money is still coming in the whole time, because workers keep paying in with every paycheck. But that incoming payroll tax, by itself, only covers about 78% of the benefits that were promised. 78 cents on every dollar. Which means, if Congress does absolutely nothing, in 2032, benefits get automatically cut by about 22%, across the board. Not a proposal, not a maybe. It's written into how the system works when the fund empties. Let me put that in real money, because a percentage doesn't land until you feel it. The average retired worker in 2026 gets about $2,071 a month. Cut that by 22%, and you're losing roughly $455 every month. Your check drops to around $1,616. Think about a retiree living on that check right now. Think about Dorothy, 81 years old, whose entire budget is her Social Security, her rent, her groceries, her medicine. You can't tell someone like Dorothy that $455 a month is just a rounding error. For her, that's whether the lights stay on. That, right there, is the deadline the Promise Act is racing against. The senators aren't trying to cut your check. They're trying to force Congress to fix the shortfall before that automatic cut ever hits. The bill is basically an alarm clock that Congress can't hit snooze on. Real quick, if this is the first time anyone has explained the 2032 deadline to you in plain English instead of scary headlines, do me a favor and subscribe, because I track exactly this kind of thing and translate it into what it means for your check, before it happens, not after. Okay, back to it. So now you might be thinking, this sounds responsible. Bipartisan, forces a vote, protects the program, guarantees 50 years of solvency. Who could possibly be against that? And here's the twist I promised you. AARP, the biggest advocacy group for older Americans in the country, the organization whose entire job is defending seniors and Social Security. They came out against it. On July 21st, 2026, AARP sent a letter to Congress. Their chief advocacy officer, Nancy Lamond, wrote that they strongly object to fast-tracking Social Security changes through Congress. Strongly object. So what's going on? Why would the senior's own champion oppose a bill designed to save Social Security? It comes down to that 100-hour clock. AARP's worry isn't the goal, it's the speed. When you force a giant decision about Social Security through Congress in 100 hours with limited debate, you take away time. Time for the public to see what's in the plan. Time for seniors to push back if that plan includes things they hate, like raising the retirement age, or trimming the cost of living increase, or changing benefits for future retirees. AARP's position is basically, don't rush a decision this big. A fast vote is great when the plan is good, and dangerous when nobody's had time to read it. That's the tension. One side says we've waited too long, and inaction is the real threat. The other says a rushed fix could be worse than the problem. And honestly, both of them have a point. That's what makes this one genuinely hard, and it's why you're hearing about it. Now let me tell you what this actually means for you, depending on where you are in life, because it's different for different people. If you're already retired and collecting, or you're close, here's the honest truth. Nothing changes for you today. Your check in this bill is untouched. But you have every reason to watch what plan comes out of this process, because whatever Congress eventually votes on is the thing that could touch cost of living adjustments and future benefits. This bill is the door. What walks through it is what matters. And if you're younger, in your 50s, still a decade or so from claiming, this is aimed squarely at you. Because 2032 is when you're walking up to the door, and whether you get 100% of your promised benefit or 78% depends entirely on whether Congress acts before then. Meet James, 54 years old, planning to retire at 67. He does the math on his statement, assuming he gets his full benefit. But if nothing is fixed by 2032, the number on that statement isn't a promise. It's a best-case scenario. For James, a bill that forces Congress to act isn't boring politics. It's the difference between the retirement he planned and one that's a fifth smaller. Here's the part I want to be really straight with you about, because a lot of channels won't be. This bill has not passed. It was just introduced. Introducing a bill in the Senate is the very first step of a very long road, and most bills never make it. AARP is already pushing back. There's no guarantee this becomes law, and even if it does, it doesn't tell us what the eventual solvency plan will look like. So don't let anyone tell you your check is being cut next month, and don't let anyone tell you it's already saved. Neither is true. What's true is the 2032 clock is real. It just moved a year closer, and Washington is finally, nervously, starting to argue about what to do. That's the actual news. So what should you actually do with this? 3 things, and none of them involve panicking. First, know your own number. Go to ssa.gov, log into your My Social Security account, and look at your projected benefit so you know exactly what a 22% cut would mean for you personally if it ever came. Knowledge kills panic. Second, follow the plan, not the headline. When the base bill actually comes out, that's when you look at whether it touches the retirement age, the cost of living adjustment, or the benefit formula, because that's the thing that hits your wallet, not this procedural bill. And third, if you have an opinion, this is exactly the moment your voice matters most, because it's early. Call your senator's offices. On a bill about forcing a vote, the public's pressure before the vote is the whole game. Now, I really want to hear from you on this one, because it's a genuine split and I read every comment. Which side are you on? Do you want Congress forced to vote fast, even if it's rushed, because doing nothing until 2032 scares you more? Or are you with AARP? Slow down, let people see the plan first. Type force the vote or slow it down and tell me why. And drop your age, because I promise you the 54-year-olds and the 81-year-olds in the comments are going to see this very differently. And if you've got family who think Social Security is just going to vanish in 2032, send them this video, because that myth causes people to claim early out of fear and lose money they didn't have to lose. Last thing, and it matters. I'm not a financial advisor, a tax advisor, or an attorney, and this is general information, not advice for your situation. Everything here, the bill details, the 2032 projection, the 78% figure, comes from the Senate, the 2026 Social Security Trustees report, and AARP's own letter. But a bill in progress changes, and your personal situation is yours alone. Before you make any decision about when to claim, check the current status at congress.gov, confirm your numbers with Social Security, and talk to a professional you trust. Don't act on a headline. Act on the facts once they're final.